Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on this wonderful machine. I'm not going to waffle on for too long, so let's go straight into the video. I've been putting this off for quite a while because it takes quite a lot of courage, more than you may think, to drill straight through a metal frame that you pay quite a lot for. So I spent a lot of attention to detail in marking out the points, constantly lining up the controller using masking tape so I could rub off, and then finally making the marks in pencil. I then took a drill to it and carefully, using a 6mm drill bit, drilled out the holes slowly until it went through. I made sure to lubricate the bit when drilling so as not to wear it out, and I was then on to the second hole, which by the magic of editing was very easy for you watching at home. I gave it a quick file to remove any burrs, and then did a test fit with the controller and using some bolts and nuts.
Slide up and down as intended.
Unfortunately the holes weren't quite right, so I used the drill just to widen the holes a little bit to help with alignment. And yes, I was passing this hole before getting started, and then I drilled out the final two holes. So there we have it, the holes have been drilled, all four of them. They're not perfect. Ones on that side they're ever so slightly off, but I'm going to be able to make it work because, well, got the determination to do it. So I'm just going to, wherever it is, put the controller on and do my best to get it fitting. Might have to do it with filing, but yeah, the worst bit's been done, which is actually drilling the hole. Right, so to compensate for this, I've just taken a bit off the top of the nut, which actually helps because it means as it pushes up against the side, it will stop it rotating, which makes it easier to put the top on. So I'm just going to get 4 of the same bolts, and then hopefully we can fix it at the top and put it all back together. And here's the other one. So I'm going to put the bolts underneath up like that, or rather like so, and then have the nuts go on the top because that's the way it's going to work best. Right, now time to tighten them down. Now if you're looking for a socket set, I really recommend this Baco one. It's got a wider range of stuff, very sturdy. I've had this for over 1.5 years, using it really hard. The ratchet attachment hasn't gone wrong. It comes with this nice quick detachable thing. The bits have little keys in them. So yeah, I'll leave a link in the description. Not sponsored, but just really good piece of kit. And I can just throw it in my backpack when I go off, and not a problem. No, I'll be covered for 90% of my problems. Anyway, enough waffle, let's get these bolts done up. And that is on there very solidly. There we go. And here it is. So that's pretty stealthy. Now with this frame comes this metal cover which is supposed to go underneath. You'll see that the controller is actually too tall, so I tried making some little brackets here to extend it, but it doesn't really work. It's not going to be waterproof, it's going to look horrible. So what I might try and do is try and vacuum form, because I believe I have access to one, not at home but somewhere else. Try and make like an enclosure to go around it that could be fully waterproof, because obviously that's going to be right at the front of any stuff coming up from the front wheel. So I'm going to need a mud guard anyway, but at least that's going to get plenty of airflow where it is, and I've heard they don't even get that hot anyway. So yeah, let's just connect the motor up and see where all the wiring goes. Now another issue is that the battery is going to go in here, but the holes are up here, and I don't really want to have to run a cable from these terminals all the way up through the holes back down. So what I'll probably end up doing is drilling like a hole here for the power cable so it can go straight up to the battery. And another thing which I didn't think of is that these screw heads are going to interfere with the battery box, but what I'll just do is I'll just get some longer screws here so it can just sit on top of these, and it should be all good. This is the thing, you encounter problems and you have to solve them. No matter how much planning you do with a project like this, there are going to be issues that you run into, and to be honest, it's more fun kind of doing things, finding the problem, solving it, rather than planning it all down to which bolt you're going to use and where you're going to put it to the nearest millimetre and stuff. So yeah, just go with the flow, it's much more fun. So at this point I was ready to attach the pedal on the left hand side. I didn't talk to this, so I'll do a voiceover to make it more interesting. So I just put a bit of Vaseline on the shaft with the tapered edges, and then around the threads as well, just to try and stop it seizing up over time, and then did it up using a socket set, and as you can see it spun freely. So these are the front brakes, and because I've never had hydraulics before, I got them out of the package and I was like, ooh, brakes, this is fun, let's see what it feels like. And what I've done is basically push the pads together, because I was putting the lever with whilst they weren't installed. For future reference, don't do this, because basically what it does is it pushes out the pistons which are in here too far, and pushes the discs, the pads even together, so now they're stuck together. They're not actually stuck, they're just pushed in too far. So what I've got to do is take them out and push the piston back, so it should be fairly easy, but yeah, I'll show you how to do it anyway. So what you're going to need are some needle nose pliers and perhaps some small screwdrivers. Now on the brakes there's this pin usually that holds them together. What you need to do is take this pin out. So you're going to push this clip up like so. Now that's the pin out, don't lose that. And now you're just going to push the pads out like so. Again, don't lose them, don't lose the retentioning clip. And as you can see, this pin on the right comes out quite far. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pliers. Now I should just point out that you shouldn't really be using a metal object for this. Use something wooden or plastic. I didn't know what I was doing, but yeah, you can scratch the pistons and push it back down, which can take a fair bit of force. Brake pads, here they are. Fairly standard. It looks like they've got gold in them. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid. These are apparently the resin pads, so I have no idea what that means. Try not to touch them because you don't want to get any oil on them. Okay, so this clip goes around the actual pad itself, and then you can push this back in, and then you can just bend the top back, and there you go. Now I actually got the tips of how to do that from Seth over at Seth Bike Hacks, so I'll put a link to him down in the description so you can check his channel out. So for me, I'm going to start by getting the handlebars ready to put on the lever, and now on with the new brakes. Done it the wrong side. So I'm just going to loosely tighten this down. There we go, that'll just hold it in place. And now time for the caliper. Now today this has arrived, which is a 203mm adapter, because at the moment it won't fit on. And the first things to do are to take this caliper off and also switch this one out for a 203mm one, which I have. So I'll just do a time lapse of that and stop off if anything interesting happens. Now one thing just to note is when you're handling the disc, it's best just to try and avoid touching the edge, just so you don't get any kind of oil and stuff on it. I've heard it's not really an issue because like as soon as you use these, any kind of finger oil and stuff will just burn off. But yeah, best not to take any chances, so just try not to touch the actual braking surface too much. So that all lines up, which is good. Just going to thread these onto the adapter loosely for now. There we go. Now I'm going to tighten these ones down because there's no room for play. Now what I've noticed, which is interesting, is that I don't have any comparison, but those pads are right, kind of, they're gripping the whole brake basically, whereas on the old one they were only kind of gripping this top bit. And you can see on the old disc where there's a line, it's not actually gripping this section here. So that should mean we get really good performance out of these. Now I'm going to go through the process of adjusting. So what I'm going to do is whilst it's all loose, I'm going to grab the lever, you can see it flexing a little bit, and just start loosely doing these up. That looks like it might work. So at this point it was all going really well, got the front brake on and I got it calibrated and I took it out for a test ride, and the brakes at the front were really good, really grippy. The ones at the rear, which are cable operated, seem absolutely puny compared to the ones at the front. And I think part of this was that I've been used to cable brakes at the front, which even when you fully squeeze the lever, barely kind of slowed you down. Obviously I'm exaggerating, they did slow you down, but nowhere near as good as these brakes. And it was all going really well, worked flawlessly, and at the end I decided to see just how good they were, and I made the mistake of just grabbing the front lever, which is a big no-no in motorcycles and any kind of biking really, and I had no idea that the brakes were this good. They basically locked up the front wheel, the calipers grabbed the disc so hard that the tyre broke traction. I'm fine, the bike's mostly okay, as you'll see. So if there's anything that you can take away from this, respect whatever you're making when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. And I think the big message with this is that this is heading into kind of high power territory, and I know that I've learned that I need some training on braking and all sorts. I think this one little incident has shown me what this is capable of. So please be careful. Anyway, obviously the plan has changed slightly. It was all going to be about tuning the brakes and getting them all done. But anyway, stay watching and yeah, you'll see what I did. Now what I'm going to be trying today is a full bleed of the front brakes, because obviously a lot of the oil came out. So I did actually record myself doing the bleeding, but on editing it just looked really boring, and there's tons of tutorials online of how to do it for your specific brake. So naturally the next step was to attach the rear brake. So I used the same method as the first one for grabbing the lever and alignment, but things didn't go quite as planned. I don't know if I got a faulty brake, but here's what happened. Okay, so I was messing around with this rear brake and I was tightening it down. I heard a click, I took it off, and the bracket has literally snapped in two. I'm not even sure where the other part is. It. Oh, that's the actual brake. Now what's arrived today is this shock pump, which I'm going to use to test the rear suspension and hopefully adjust it and put some more pressure on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how much pressure in there to start with. It comes with a nice handy gauge, it's made of metal, it's got an extendable pump if you want to do the tyres, and a button and Schrader and pressure and all the jazz, and it only costs £12. So let's put it on the shock and have a look. Okay, so I've already taken the cap off, so I'm just going to thread this on. Oh wow, and as you can see, that is barely on 50 psi. Now considering this thing has a maximum of 300 psi more, so I'll probably go up to 100 and see what that feels like. Really firm. Wow. So let's have a look at the sag. That is how much sag we have. Now, so that's where it starts, 50%'s about there. So yeah, that is about right actually. So I guess the only thing to do next would be to take it on a ride around the block and see how it fares. I'm tempted, I think I'm going to have to take some more pressure out of that, because it almost feels like it's locked out, but it's not, so we'll have to see.